Howdy, folks. Um, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. Now that we have a little bit of the biographical context on Poe and his upbringing and family and terrible losses that he's experienced, um, we have a handle on some of the preoccupations that he brought into the literary art that he created. So remember, and I'll say it again, this is what I left off with on part one. But yeah, it bears repeating. It's that both The Raven and Ligeia are about the power of art and fantasy. It's through art that Poe has the power to control the life and memory of his women in a way he didn't in his waking, regular, day-to-day life. Ligeia and Lenore's character have both been shaped by the terrible losses that Poe sustained. Beauty, death, love, and youth are inextricably intertwined for Poe. So if death is showing up right where beauty and love are, yeah, that sounds kind of like the Gothic too, doesn't it? Okay, well, let me just point out, and just quickly here, I think folks understood pretty well what's going on in the poem, The Raven. But let me just point out a couple details here, a couple different points. Over on page 613, and this is at the very beginning of the poem. You can see that the narrator seems like he's in a pretty ordinary state of mind. And, you know, a number of you very nicely commented on the fact that the narrator seems to go from being more or less ordinary state of mind, studying by himself or, dozing off or whatever it might be, going from that to being whipped into some kind of crazy, terrible frenzy. But the question we have to ask, is he being whipped into this frenzy because he's just had a supernatural visitation from this raven? Or is it because his pain is just being brought up to the surface and it's all just about a man who's coming face to face with his loss and his grief? And again, the poem doesn't give us any clear answer to that question. Okay, so it starts off. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. But with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. So, you know, we all like looking out our window and seeing birds and animals, and, you know, seems like just a charming encounter with an animal. Videos like that are all over YouTube. If YouTube existed when Poe wrote this, you know, the narrator encountered this, he'd take a video and upload it and everyone would click like and say how cute and whatever, okay? But that's not where it stays. So it's over on page 615 that, you know, he goes from that, you know, charmed by this bird that wandered into his house, into a state of intense frenzy, intense upheaval. Okay. This is around line 95 here. Prophet, said I, thing of evil. Prophet still if bird or devil. By that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Okay. Be that word or our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. So he's starting to think, that this thing has, come from Pluto or it is this prophet of death somehow. But does that mean it really is? Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth a raven, nevermore. Okay, so, yeah. And as some of you pointed out, I think quite appropriately, that even if the raven is there, if the raven is there or not there or whatever, what this is speaking to, it's all a metaphor or a symbol somehow for the incredible pain that this man is going through. Even if there's not really a raven there, even if it really is there and it's just a bird, there is a deep symbolic truth, even if it's not from the underworld. There's a deep symbolic truth that the narrator is associating with this raven. And so in that sense, it really is there marking some kind of deep personal truth. Okay, so, but, what exactly it is, again, lots of luck, lots of luck coming up with a definitive answer. Is it really a supernatural messenger? Is the bird even there? Or maybe it is there, but it's just a bird, okay? We don't know. And y'all were teasing out all the various possibilities. But I think one thing is certain, that the bird does begin to take on this symbolic import about the man's internal state of loss and grief. And I think that's one thing we can say for sure. Okay, well, the poem, of course, is known for its gloom and sadness and grief and everything else. But believe it or not, there's an undertone of humor in here. Let me just, if I can make a couple parting points here. When you read Poe, you're not exactly looking for a joke, but believe it or not, sometimes they're here. Look over on page 613. Okay, so, this is just a tortured rhyme scheme here in this stanza, and I think it's supposed to be funny. Then into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon I heard again a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. So window lattice, right? It's just, okay, window, right? Trappings of a window, fine. But look at this rhyme scheme here, right? Or this specific individual rhyme he has. Let me see then what thereat is. That's one of the worst convoluted rhymes in poetic history. And Poe shared that with Lord Byron, struggling to make a rhyme and not being able to do it, and then just turning it into a joke. All right. Surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. Okay, that's supposed to be funny. Okay, and then over on page 614, I had a professor in graduate school point out this next section here, and he thought it was hilarious, and so I do too. Okay, so there's some bawdy humor in here too, sexual jokes here, and I'm going to see if I can bring this out. Look over, it's around line 70 in The Raven. Oh, no, sorry, around line 75. Um, okay, or no, starting around line 71st. So it starts by saying, but the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling. Straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of the bird and bust and door. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try to act this out here if I can. So here's the here's his chair, right? Okay, and then so he ends up saying, okay. So this is the choreography here, if I may. Um, this and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated over, but whose velvet lining with lamplight gloating over, she shall pass, nevermore. Okay, so he's on the floor. Here's this chair where she used to sit, and he's putting his head on the seat like this, okay, saying, she shall pass nevermore. All right, so you kind of get the joke. He misses her butt, okay? He misses that Victorian booty, all right? So I'm sorry, but it's true. You thought Poe was this nice, clean Victorian writer, but I'm sorry he was not. There's some bawdy humor built in here. So anyway, so that's my attempt to end, this sad story about death and loss, even disease, right? As we're faced here with our own pandemic. My attempt to end all that was just a little bit of humor. So anyway, Poe was not beyond the capacity of telling and appreciating a good, bawdy joke. Okay, so we'll leave it on that note. Happy reading, everybody.